Welcome to this first video about Microsoft Visual Studio Express. This is what we use in class to create our programs using the Visual Basic programming language. So when I open it up, I'm going to click on a new project. The one I'm looking for here is a Windows Form application. Please give it a name, a meaningful name. Do not put commas or spaces or anything like that in your name. It's just nice and easy to keep it together. I use camel case where I just capitalize the first letter. So for this one I'm going to call it variables controls, making sure this create directory for solution is ticked, and then I'll press OK. Okay, just showing what your design, what your actual interface will look like when you open up the program. On the right hand side you have what I called your controls, and these aspects and elements here we can actually put onto our interface here. The interface is of course what the user would see when using the program. It's a Windows Form based application, so this is also pre-named Form 1. We have our output here. I like to click on error list. When we're actually coding, it'll tell us exactly what the errors are, or where the errors occur. And we have our properties box here. Every control, every form has a number of properties. So I'll explain that just briefly. For example, if I want to name my form something different so I can refer to it when programming, I'm going to use what's called Hungarian notation. So this exists in two parts. You shorten what the actual control is, so FRM for form, and then you give it a name afterwards. So if I was going to use a button, for example, I would shorten that to be BTN, and then I'll give it a name afterwards. I'm also going to change what the actual text is that appears here, and I'll call this one main page. So I've got a number of things I can put on here. I've got a button, etc. We won't worry about that at the moment. Excuse me. So what I am going to do is put on a button and show you what I mean by starting to have a look at some of the properties. So straight away I've changed the properties here. I've resized it. I could have done that here. I am going to change the name like I said before. So the Hungarian notation, BTN, and let's say this button is going to be name. I'm then going to click and put on some text, enter your name. So what I'm hoping will happen, in my next video, of course, is when the user clicks here, I'm going to get them to prompt for to actually type in their name, and then I'm going to display it in a label here. So watch what I do as I put in a label. Labels are really cool because you can use them just to display text, which is nice. I need to change some sort of things here, so I'm going to take this one and call it LBL, name. There's that Hungarian location again. I want the auto size to be false, which means I can actually set how big I want my label to be. I also want the border to be fixed 3D, just so it actually gives it a bit of, you can actually see it. Click off it there. I don't want any text in it to start with, but I do want the alignment of the text to be here, and I would like the font to be large as well. If I want something to happen in Visual Basic, I need to click. Okay, so if I wanted something to happen when the form loads, I would double click here. For the name, for example, for this button, I'm just going to double click, and you see it'll bring up the code. So you can see here it's a private subroutine. It's called button name, and the event it's looking for, it's clicked. When someone clicks on that, I can change these up here if I wanted to do something else, but that's okay for now. So what I'm going to do is declare a variable first of all, and I'm going to call this one dim name as string. So we're saying that it's a string, which means it can take any of the ASCII characters, so anything on your keyboard essentially. So you've got your special characters, exclamation marks, hash symbols, dollar symbols, all that kind of stuff. You've got commas, decimals, letters, numbers. So that's what a string can hold. Okay. And I'm going to set the starting value to nothing, or to emptiness. So we declare our variable here by using the dim tag. We've given our variable a name, we've given it a type, we've given it a starting value. I want the value of name though to come from the user. So if I type in input box, please enter your name. And then the next one here, what I want to do is look at that object, which is the label name. I can access the property of that, so I'm going to press the full stop and then type in text. And I want that equal to be, or I want that to be equal to whatever the user puts in as their name. So we've declared the variable, we've given the variable a name, we've given it a type, we've given it a starting value. We've then used an input box to take that information from the user. We are then going to display what they've put in that label that it assigned. So this error is nothing to worry about, so let me just press apply and see what happens. Okay, so when I click here, I'm prompted, please enter your name. And you can see that what I've written ends up in this label. Because I've already got these set up in a way that I like, with the font, with the properties all changed, I'm just going to press Control-C, Control-V, paste them. Now all it does is paste the properties, it doesn't actually give me the names. So for this one here, the name, I'm going to call it BTN, age. Instead of enter your name, I'm going to do the same thing with age. This one, all I have to do is change the name of it. Instead of being label 1, this will be LBL, age. Double click here. For this one, what I'm going to do though, I'm going to declare a variable. We'll call it age. But it's going to be an integer. Now an integer is a whole number only, so you can't use decimals. When I give it a starting value, I'll just make it equal to 0. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before with an input box. Your age. And then I'll do that same thing, LBL age dot text. Remember, we'll use the full stop, and then the text to access the property text, I'll have that equal to age. So it's all good. I go over here, check my error list, no errors, so I'll run the program again. Enter my name, Scott, age 37. Now the cool thing is it's pretty intuitive. If I actually enter a decimal, let's say I do 37 point, it will not read that decimal. What it will do is round, and it will round up or round down on the standard sort of mathematics rules. So what I can show you how to do is, let's do this one again. Paste that. But for this one here, I'm going to change it to enter your exact age. This is, we'll call this LBL exact. Oh, I didn't give that a name. Sorry. BTN exact. So when I double click this one, I'm going to copy this. Now I can name my variables the same thing because they are in private subroutines, which means they can only be accessed by what's in here. Instead of being an integer, I'm going to call that a double. Double is what we use to represent a floating point or a decimal point. And I just need to change this to say exact. So enter my name, Scott. Enter my age, 37. Exact age, 37.4, for example. And it's there. One other data type I'm going to talk about today. So we've had a string in here, an integer in here, and a floating point or a double in there. I'm going to put what's called a char. Now a char will just hold a single character. So if I just enter your gender, this one can be called BTN. Gender. So when someone clicks on here, we're going to declare a variable dim gender as char. Gender equals input box. Please and then LBL gender is assigned gender. So the type of program we're doing at the moment is sequencing, which means it just reads this line at a time. So that's what's called a programming control structure, not to be confused with a control. So watch what I do here when I run it. So name, Scott, age 37, 34, gender, I'm going to put in M for male. Now, because I've made it a char, if I actually type in the male, it's still only going to take that first letter. Female, just to show you the difference. Other, it's only ever going to store that first ASCII character. So that's a string, an integer, a floating point, and a character or a char. That concludes the video.